Welcome to the College Baseball Central Network, bringing you 90 feet closer to the greatest show on dirt.
Welcome to CBC Radio. I hope it's not for the first time, but even if it is, happy to have you on board. It is March 4th, which 3-4, that's kind of a fun back-to-back there. And if you thought that was at all fun, you're really going to love the next 45 minutes or so here on CBC Radio, because that's kind of what it's all about. Weird observations. It started with a concept of me talking to somebody who's become a recurring guest on CBC Radio here 4 episodes into this production in Matt Grissom. Just casual conversation that leads to tangent after tangent. And College Baseball Central Radio attempts to be a radio show of sorts based on the name. That was not hard to deduce. But we want you to tune in 5:30 every Wednesday, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. You're getting home. Maybe you're on the way home. Maybe you're going to work. Maybe you work the night shift. Either way, I don't care what you're doing, as long as you're joining me for CBC Radio every Wednesday at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. I'll tell you what my work week looks like since you asked. 8 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday. It might surprise many to know that I do not do College Baseball Central even close to full-time. It is very, very much part-time, if even part-time. The reality is we all have other obligations. We would all love to make this our full-time gig. I'm sure my esteemed colleague in Matt Grissom, who's awaiting in the wings for his segment Moneyball, if you become a fan of that. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. But again, we would all love to do this full-time. The reality is we can't. But at the same time, what a great time to be a college baseball fan, whether you're in my shoes trying the hardest to bring you guys a quality product, or whether you're sitting at home watching other quality products. Good for you. It's been a fantastic season so far of great games. And I think that the last 5, maybe 6 days of college baseball have been some of the best that we've seen as far as the regular season goes in a long time. So many great games this weekend, so many great series, so many great events. It feels like the Arlington tournament went 3 for 3 for maybe the first time ever. It feels like they usually have a letdown weekend. I don't think they did this year. They nailed it as Flow Sports continues to carry us through the first month of the season. And you're more than able to cancel your Flow Sports subscription at this point if you haven't already. In fact, this is probably a good reminder to do so, because if you don't cancel it in the next 9 days or so, you're going to get re-upped for another month. And of course, we all love Flow Sports for their support of college baseball, but you probably don't want to give them another $20, $30, whatever it is that you paid to watch those 3 great events in Arlington. But we also had some great midweeks, last night included. And again, I don't want to be the guy. If you listen to me the last 3 weeks that I've done this, I don't want to be the guy that sits and talks about games that you've already watched, because the reality is, if you're watching me, Noah Darling, the founder of College Baseball Central, at 5:30 or 6:30, or maybe you're on the West Coast and it's 3:30, whatever it may be, if you're tuning in to watch me ramble about college baseball and my tangents, you are probably well aware of the events that happened in the days leading up to you choosing to watch me talk about it live. So I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to sit and tell you that UCLA is the best team in the country. They nearly got no hit last night, but they won. I'm not going to tell you that. I won't even go there. But I do want to touch on the midweek that many of us witnessed last week between Southern Miss and Mississippi State. I've long been not a hater of Southern Miss, but I've been very cautious when it comes to falling into the Southern Miss. I don't want to call it a trap, but I'm going to call it a trap. The Southern Miss trap, where every year it feels like, man, this might be Southern Miss's year. They have the great pitching. Feels like they always have great pitching, dating back to guys like Hurston Waldrop when he was a Golden Eagle and guys of that nature. And then it feels like they always have a guy who's been there for 18 years who just tears the cover off the ball. It feels like they're very balanced this year. Last night, if you watched their midweek victory over Mississippi State, you saw freshman pitching look outstanding, which is always a good thing, especially in midweek competition when you're not experimenting as much as you are just trying to get through it at certain points. And I'll get to that overarching opinion on midweeks in a second. But last night's victory was fantastic, not just from an entertainment perspective, a 1-run game as Mississippi State came back from down, I believe it was 5-0, and then ended up tying things up, taking a lead. I think it was 6-5, and then Southern Miss won 7-6. I believe it might have been 8-7, something like that. And it was a great game. The offense looked pretty good. Mississippi State had some trouble getting there. It sounds like their flight had some issues out of Arlington. They had some trouble maybe busing to Southern Miss. I don't know the full details of that. It's not my story to tell. I enjoyed watching the game. I hope you did as well. If you haven't, I'm sure Wheels has the highlights. If you aren't familiar with Wheels, I would be shocked that you're familiar with me, but not familiar with Wheels. Just give Wheels College Baseball a search on YouTube. I promise you're not watching anything with an axle. You're watching college baseball highlights condensed in 10 minutes, 12-minute form. He even tells you if the game's exciting or not. But if it's on Wheels, it's probably worth watching. And I think a lot of us have watched every Wheels highlight that he's produced this season and probably last season as well. He does great work. Unsolicited shout out to him. Shout out to Wheels. But either way, a great midweek last night. But when I sent out my rundown for what I wanted to discuss on CBC Radio this week, and again, I thank everybody who's listening. If you're tuning in right now, I thank you for being here. I wish you would like, retweet, comment if you're on Twitter. If you're on YouTube, and even if you aren't on YouTube yet, I want you to head to our YouTube channel. If you're already on YouTube, subscribe, like the video, comment. Again, everybody in the world says that on YouTube. Every single person you listen to, and there's a reason for that. It helps. It means that I'm doing something right. College Baseball Central is doing something right. It also puts a little dough in our pocket. We'll be, open about that. Reality is that if we all did College Baseball Central full time, we'd be living on the street because we don't make a lot of money doing it. That's not what it's about. But at the same time, it does mean the world to find a way to make any sort of dollar off of this. And it's tacky to even mention that. I don't like mentioning money. But liking, subscribing, commenting, it means the world. Please do it. We appreciate your support, whether you do it or not. But anyway, midweeks, as far as they're evaluated, a lot of times you'll see certain fans say, oh, midweeks don't matter anyway. It feels very subjective. When you lose a game, it's always, well, midweeks don't matter. When you win a game, it's, oh, maybe they do matter a little bit. Either way, I've been tweeting the last week or so, and I do put a TM next to it, so that means it's legally trademarked, of course. Can't take it from me because I said so. Every midweek matters to somebody or someone. Every midweek matters to someone. What does that mean? Well, everything matters to everybody in different ways. Of course, looking at it from a sociology perspective, but from a different point of view, let's pretend that you're LSU. A perfect example is they struggle in midweeks, it would appear, in 2026, losing to McNeese State and Northeastern the last 2 weeks in their midweek competition. Their midweek resolve is to go out and experiment with the roster, get guys who don't pitch often, get them on the mound. Get guys who don't get a lot of ABs, get them out on the field. Here's what midweeks matter to LSU. Number one, winning games will be awesome, but it's secondary. Number two, maybe we run into an issue on Sunday. We need a Sunday starter. Where do you pull from? Well, you go to the guy who's been throwing on Tuesdays, Mondays, and Wednesdays for you. Maybe not in that order. And you go in and you say, hey, buddy, you looked really good against Northeastern for an inning. Let's see what you look like against Florida on Sunday. That's a jump, but it's not as big of a jump as going from doing nothing to playing on Sunday. So that's what it means for LSU players in that perspective. From a new perspective, in the world of transfer portal athletes, the players on the field, they've got to put tape out there. They've got to say, yeah, I played at LSU, but I didn't really play at LSU. Well, actually, I did. I played in midweeks. I played in the occasional maybe Sunday game, but I made my hay in the midweeks, and I played pretty well, even if it was against mid-tier competition. That's probably where I'm transferring down to from LSU after not playing. But of course, there's more to it than that. And with LSU, the reality is that if LSU goes and wins 18 conference games, they're going to be more than hosting a regional. They're probably going to be a top 8 seed. That's 18 and 12 in the SEC. Historically, that's going to be good enough to get you wherever you want to go, and that's probably Omaha. However, there are other conferences that don't get that same treatment. You go 18 and 12 in a league like the Big 12, the Big 10, all of a sudden it's, what else have you done for me? Because the narrative surrounding those leagues is that it's not as hard to win as the SEC. And whether that's true or not, midweeks then matter exponentially more for these programs. When Cincinnati goes and plays Auburn, they're, of course, trying maybe a little bit harder than Auburn because the game means a little bit more to them. So just that variance between two teams, LSU and, for example, Cincinnati, you can see how the game matters that much more, and that's common sense. You already knew that. But when it comes down to other teams, maybe even a Missouri. What does a midweek mean to them if they want to sneak into the NCAA tournament in however many years? Racking up midweeks wins matter. So I'm very curious in the way midweeks are scheduled, how they continue to be scheduled. As we saw just a few years ago, Florida kind of punted midweeks, and they kind of punted regular season or regular series as well. But when it came to the midweek, they made some noise and seemingly being very okay with losing them. And then they reached Omaha that season. They did squeak into the NCAA tournament. A lot of people will say that was a benefit of being in the SEC. Either way, I'm curious on the way that midweeks are evaluated from level to level, from the SEC to the mid-tier conferences to mid-majors, because when you blanketly say that midweeks don't matter, I don't buy into that at all. I don't listen to it, because every midweek matters to somebody, even as trivial as grandma watching her grandson play for High Point against LSU at home. That matters to somebody. So it doesn't matter because they play the games for a reason. If you know the reason, if you have a reason, you're a program, and you say, this is why we do midweeks, the way we do midweeks, let me know. I'm very curious because I want to defend you in that, because I do believe that midweeks matter. I also, after discussing Mississippi State a little bit earlier against Southern Miss, wanted to touch on the fantastic baseball that Mississippi State has given us the last two times that they touched the field. Sunday in Arlington against UCLA was one of the greatest regular season college baseball games of all time, and people have made the distinction, maybe the greatest Sunday game of all time. Historically, you think college baseball on a Sunday, sloppy baseball, bullpen games, maybe these guys aren't even starters when they're rolling them out there. Sunday, very experimental day as far as the weekend goes. Not this Sunday. Sunday in Arlington felt like a postseason environment with all the Mississippi State fans that were down there, as well as the two great teams on the field. And UCLA scrapped and fought and came back late. Rock Chalowski tied the game up with 2 outs in the ninth. Every bit of the number 1 overall pick, every bit of a Golden Spikes favorite right now. UCLA made a statement in Arlington last week, and I was already bought in on the Bruins as the number 1 team when I went and saw them in LA the week prior. I'm glad other people joined me in that. Not that it was controversial. These guys are the number 1 team. You saw them in Omaha last year. But then Mississippi State looked every bit of the number 2 team in the country for most of that baseball game, and Mississippi State fans will be quick to criticize and say that they make sloppy plays, maybe they don't run the bases as hard as they would like. I think those are easy things to point out when you lose by 1 or 2, like they did against UCLA and Southern Miss. I think Mississippi State is going to be playing in Omaha, and that's not a statement that I was making a week ago. So I'm very invested in this Mississippi State club. I'm curious about the use of Jack Bauer, but who isn't? His ERA has kind of been a balloon so far. He hasn't looked great. Neither has Angel Cervantes at UCLA, a couple freshman pitchers. But without rambling too far, I just wanted to say that a lot of people are going to be talking about Southern Miss, as they rightfully should. I believe Southern Miss is a top 6 team in the country right now, probably top 5. But people are going to overlook the 2 great games that Mississippi State just played away from home. And that's the reality of college baseball, is away from home in the month of March for a lot of programs more north than Mississippi State. But a great challenge that team took on, came up short in both. So it's going to be easy to kind of dust that off, even though you watched them play great baseball for 8 or 9 of those innings in each of those games. I hope people don't forget that Mississippi State team is kind of a rebuild right now. And again, I'm not sticking my neck out for a mid-major. I'm sticking my neck out for a top 5 team in the country. But at the same time, I walked away more impressed with Mississippi State than I was before they went 0-2 in the 2 games I just watched them play. So I'm very intrigued by the future of Mississippi State baseball. But enough about the Blue Bloods. We can talk about Mississippi State, UCLA, LSU was mentioned. We probably are not going to hear a lot of those kinds of names when we bring on every week at this point Matt Grissom with Moneyball. Matt has joined the program the last 2 weeks. His Moneyball segment is designed to give us an analytical look at a few players that maybe we don't talk about enough. Maybe guys who are having tremendous seasons, teams who are having tremendous seasons, who get overlooked because they aren't a blue blood, a Power 5 school. Maybe they're not even a delicious mid-major like UTSA. Matt, thank you for inviting yourself on. This is Matt Grissom with Moneyball. Matt, why don't you play your intro while you're at it? Because you have a fancy intro. Why don't you do that?
He can't throw. But what can he do?
He gets on base.
We are card counters at the blackjack table.
You're buying into this Bill James bullshit, are you?
I'm heading in. Text me the play-by-play.
Wait, what?
I don't watch the games.
Well, I apologize. I still have yet to make that transition go smoothly. StreamYard really needs to fix that. You missed a comment, though, here before we get into it. Midweeks matter in the sense that they count the same for your RPI and other metrics the committee may use, but they aren't an indication of how good or bad a team is. What are your thoughts on that?
I can jive with what that commenter's saying. I didn't catch that name, but Logan, you said?
Yep.
Okay, with what Logan is saying, I can get on board with the concept. I don't want to draw conclusions after any game, so I think that's fair to say. You can go get swept, and I'm not going to draw a conclusion on how good or bad you are. Do it over a weekend, though, and I will draw conclusions. So I think it's fair to say that and I don't know Mississippi State's schedule, if they go and play 5 more ranked teams in the midweek, which I highly doubt they do as an SEC team, and they go 0-5 against those teams, I'm going to draw some conclusion, whether it's their A team or their B team or their C team, just like we did with Florida a few years ago. People were hitting the panic button on Florida, and what did they do? They were a 3 seed when they reached the NCAA tournament. Now, of course, they ended the season in Omaha, but I think you can draw some conclusions when a pattern emerges, but I'll agree with you. One game does not define a team, whether it's a midweek or a weekend.
Well, Arkansas fans would tell you otherwise. Losing a midweek to Arkansas State, you might as well just close down the program.
Well, when you parlay that into a non-exciting weekend as well, then, yeah, shut it down.
All right, so hitter of the week, I'm going to take you to the St. Mary Gales. Tanner Griffith, 10 runs scored in 15 at-bats, good for a 673 OBP, which is number 2 in the country. Pay attention to Tanner Griffith of the Gales. A weighted runs created of 235 on the year, hitting 135% more as far as weighted runs created. Pitcher of the week, really no surprise here. I tried to find a mid-major stud, but there were several great pitching performances. You had the kid Sharman from Clemson, who somehow pitched only 78 pitches, but we're going to talk about Chris Lavonis here. 6 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts, 0 walks. Now good for number 2 in the country in strikeouts, number 1 in Sierra. They negative 88. Congratulations. Looks like the pitching lab is back in Wake Forest. Team of the week, really no surprise here, Georgia, and that schedule. We'll get the Bulldogs back to reality here, hopefully when SEC play starts, but they're looking very impressive on both sides of the ball. Number 2 in the country in weighted runs created, number 5 in the country in Sierra, and they cruised to another 4-0 week with Oakland and then a midweek with Kennesaw State. Run differential, now you're messing with it.
Hey, just let me click my buttons, all right?
This is 43-4 was the run differential for the Georgia Bulldogs. So anytime you can dominate like that through your lineup, scoring 43 runs, and then hold your opponent to 4, it's going to land you in the team of the week. Now, like I said, strength of schedule, what does that mean? Athens doesn't know. Staff of the week, Southern Cal. Back-to-back shutouts versus Cal Poly, including a no-hitter through 9, actually 10 innings. Going into the 11th, Cal Poly finally got their first hit, but this staff is averaging 11 strikeouts a game over the weekend. 2.40 Sierra for a team, 383 xFIP. That's 7th in the country for both. And then Texas Tech. TikTok Tadlock, as coined by our friend Alfred Esmond. Tim Tadlock has turned on the offense. Since going 0-3 in Arlington, Tech has scored an average of 13.6 runs per game and are 7-1 since. Now have the 4th best batting average in the country and are 6th in weighted runs created, hitting as a team 50% higher than average. They're your ball players and teams of the week.
Well, I got to say, Chris, as a Big 12 guy, I did not expect to see Texas Tech on this graphic in any capacity. That's a program that took 2 of 3 from Cal State Bakersfield this weekend, but lost the 3rd game in blowout fashion. I'm not asking for you to make any conclusions about the Red Raiders, but I might ask you to do just that. Outside of Lincoln Garcia, I don't get very excited about this Texas Tech team. So maybe give us an analytical deeper dive maybe on the Red Raiders and what you can just say about them to get me bought in.
Well, I mean, Robin Villeneuve and Logan Hughes, two pretty good bats as well. I think as far as Texas Tech goes, you're looking at very similarly to Georgia. They're kind of beating up on bad competition. So we'll see. Not super high on this Texas Tech team. I'm not going to get excited and run out and start placing bets on them to win it all. But I think, what you can take away from this is that there is potential for this team to have a really good offense. So we'll see as Big 12 season rolls around if they can sustain that, because like I said, TikTok Tadlock, if they can't win some games, I don't think his tenure in Lubbock will be much longer. But after the weekend that they had, you got to let them have a little time to shine. So that's why they were featured this week as the lineup of the week.
The narrative surrounding the entire Big Ten, to include USC, was this league can't pitch. And now USC has one of the best staffs, if not the best staff statistically, in America. Not just this season, or not just this week, like you include, but this season. I don't know all the crazy stats that have been thrown around about them, but Mason Edwards leading the way. I think they all have very low ERAs. Funny enough, with quality pitching comes low ERAs. Chris, we've got Big Ten conference play this week. I don't know if a lot of people know that. The ACC joins that party as well. Am I going to regret not going and seeing USC play baseball when I was in LA and maybe 20 minutes away from their campus?
Possibly so. If you recall last week's pitcher of the week, Grant Govell, who also pitched the Jim, I think they won that game like 18-2. So not an extremely reliant pitching performance, but one needed nonetheless. Cal Poly's bats just did not wake up this weekend. And yeah, I mean, when you're talking about Govell and Edwards being your 1-2, you're in a really good position. I'm high on USC this year. I think they can contend. I also got the pleasure of watching the Oregon Ducks do some great things there in Las Vegas last weekend. And then UC Irvine went 2-1 on the weekend, got the big upset win over Vanderbilt, and then followed it up with taking Oregon that game 8-6. So, yeah, West Coast baseball may be back, and it may be anchored around pitching. UC Irvine not too bad themselves with Hansen and Ojeda.
Well, Gris, to go as far away from the West Coast as possible, the East Coast, the Georgia Bulldogs, you mentioned their strength of schedule. With maybe you have it pulled up, maybe you don't. Who's on the radar for the Bulldogs with their slate, and how do you project that may be getting tougher for the Dogs?
Well, I think SEC play is obviously going to get tougher, but as it will for everybody, it's not going to get any tougher this weekend, though. They play Queens at Foley Field, so you can assume another week of them probably being team of the week before they take on Tennessee and then travel on the road at A&M the following 2 weeks. So as conference play gets started, I'll definitely be watching their numbers and seeing how they sustain this type of success throughout the SEC season.
Queens has one victory over the Power Five in the history of their program. Can you tell me the team?
I'm going to go with a ACC team.
Incorrect. The answer is the South Carolina Gamecocks last week or so. Queens picked it up against Pulmonary, and
is that really fair though to say against Papaw?
Well, that's up to you to decide. But there is a story in College Baseball Central written by Colton Watson analyzing the Pulmonary situation at South Carolina. So I had to find a way to work that in, and good on me to do so.
Yeah, good trivia. Can't believe I forgot about that. Although South Carolina would argue should be in the ACC.
Okay.
Today.
Thank you, Arkansas fan who should be in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
Gris, as you continue to do this Moneyball segment, I think I've asked you every week about your process. Do you just cherry pick stats, or what led you to the discovery specifically with the players that you highlighted?
Really just a combination of where they stack up nationally in the season long stats, but also, diving in a little bit and looking at box scores of how they did over the past weekend to warrant being hitter and pitcher of the week. USC, obviously, I was following that one closely against Cal Poly. But then you get these pleasant surprises. Like, I did not realize that Texas Tech had been hitting the ball so well, scoring 13 and a half runs per game. So just kind of a little bit of both.
Well, that's intriguing, Gris. Once again, thank you for joining with Moneyball. Any closing comments? And you mentioned you were in Vegas last week. I'm curious where your travels might take you, whether it be this weekend or maybe a few weeks down the road.
I think I'm at home base here for at least a few more weeks. I may mosey on up to Fayetteville and see the Razorbacks play in conference play, but looks like they've got the bats going a little bit, which is promising as a Arkansas homer. All these early season conferences or classics are over with, other than the Cambria, which I know you'll be in attendance of this weekend. So looking forward to just getting into conference play and figuring out what teams are legit and which ones are fugazi with these stats. And I might add, last night's game, Southern Miss, I know you said you're not going to buy into the hype of the Golden Eagles, but
whoa, I might.
Yeah, it is hard to win in Pete Taylor Park. Hats off to them for rallying after losing the lead late in that game. Just like you had said, it was a great midweek for Southern Miss. Mississippi State, that's also one you can live with losing. So I'm not going to overreact here.
There are not many midweeks that I will keep on my TV for 9 innings, and that one did not leave my TV. So it felt like a generational moment.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
Now, speaking of generational, before we say goodbye to you, Chris, I'm going to have you do 2 things. The second one is you're going to clear this screen and get me back on the screen. But the first thing is we have some big news at College Baseball Central. A partnership with Home Field has arrived on our doorstep. This is big things for College Baseball Central. We're excited to have them on board. You, of course, as a sports fan, already know Home Field. Great products. I've ordered several myself over the years. Great. That was the second thing. You were going to stay on board with me.
I'm still here.
Great to hear you, Grissom. Grissom did a lot of work to get Home Field on board with College Baseball Central. We appreciate his efforts, but we also appreciate Home Field. And Grissom, I know your voice donned a wonderful ad this afternoon, and I'm going to play the ad. And I know you love when I say things like, I'm going to do this, and then I do it. But I'm going to play the ad, and then I'm going to have you tell us a little bit more about Home Field and what it means for College Baseball Central, whether you're on screen or not. All right?
Sounds good.
All right, let's hear from our friends at Home Field, narrated by the wonderful, talented Matt Grissom.
Before we get back to the action, we've got to tell you about the best gear in college sports. The place to go is Home Field Apparel. Check out the Diamond Classics collection, high-quality throwback jerseys for your favorite team. From the Arkansas Razorbacks to the Vanderbilt Commodores, Home Field has you covered. Home Field's the only apparel partner of College Baseball Central. Gear up for game day by visiting homefieldapparel.com.
Now, Grissom, before I tee you up to talk more about Home Field, and you can switch the cameras back for all I care, but if you prefer me to be isolated, good on you. Grissom, with Home Field, you mentioned that they have us covered from anything from Arkansas to Vanderbilt. So am I correct that they only have SEC programs?
No, not at all. They have it all from A to V or Y. There's no Z. So as we spoke backstage, that was no slap in the face to Youngstown State because they do have Penguin gear if that's your vibe. However, from A to V, A to Z, whatever, they've got, I think, over 250 of the D1 schools. So, and if you haven't shopped Home Field Apparel, go do that. They've got great stuff. All their stuff is very high quality. It lasts. It's got that vintage look, all the throwback, the old school logos. I'm obsessed with that.
Grissom, I've got a Home Field Apparel looked up right now. Number one, CBC once had a discount code. Do we have a discount code for everybody listening?
No, they have stopped doing discount codes. You can get the 20% off by visiting homefieldapparel.com. It's for everyone.
I will say that every time I've ever clicked into Home Field Apparel, they have offered me that 20%. And again, I've ordered from Home Field before. You might have to sign up with a new email, but they are anxious to give you guys coupon codes. I'm scrolling the Youngstown State shop right now. I might have to invest. I'm looking at a picture of a penguin surfing with surfs up on the shirt. I've never added anything to my cart quicker, specifically because you snubbed Youngstown State. Frankly, I don't know if they have a baseball program or not, but I am anxious to support the Penguins. An outstanding
surfing
in Youngstown.
All right. Known beach community, Youngstown, Ohio.
When I think of Youngstown State, I think of Bo Pelini coaching the football team after Nebraska. Do you have any Youngstown State memories that come to your mind?
No, just, I guess, Lake Erie right there.
Okay. All right. Well, Gris, is there any other news and notes on Home Field, or can we finally say goodbye to you?
You can say goodbye to me. I apologize if people do not like the Southern drawl that I bring. Nobody else wanted to volunteer for that commercial shot. So
again, nobody knew about the commercial. You kept that to yourself, and only you had the option to record your voice.
Well, I guess that's what happens when you're stuck at home all day bored.
Well, maybe you should get a job or something.
I have that, but I get to set my own schedule.
Well, that's terrific, Gris. If you could just swipe me away, or swipe yourself away, keep me on the screen. Gris has become quite the IT guy around these parts at CBC Radio in the studio. If you've made it this far, and my screen tells me there's 193 people watching / listening, I know that that's not true. But I know that 193 people have at one point or another clicked the button watch. If you are clicking buttons left and right on your phone, head over to our YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you are, thumbs up for you. Comment right now and tell me you're watching the YouTube. I will literally send you something. It'll be cool. Go to our YouTube right now. Subscribe. College Baseball Central, just like you found it on Twitter. College Baseball Central on YouTube. Click subscribe. Click like. Comment something. If you comment your Twitter at, I will DM you some sort of reward. I don't know what it is. Go right now. Comment on our YouTube. Subscribe. Like the video. I will DM you if you comment your Twitter at. It'll be that easy. Now I know that a DM from me does not exactly make you smile. In fact, it might make you scared. But there will be something cool attached to that DM. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to solicit you like that, but just know that there will be something cool attached to the DM, which sounds even creepier. So I'm not going to make any promises, but just know that there is something in it for you. I just can't tell you what it is. I have two more bullets here as we enter minute number 33 of CBC Radio for the fourth time, the fourth edition of CBC Radio. And I'm, again, still begging you to go to our YouTube channel, and I will continue to do so. If you're a Big 12 baseball fan, maybe you're just a college baseball junkie, you saw the news of West Virginia making a little shakeup to their roster. You saw, and why is his name escaping me at this point? I'm going to have to scroll my phone for a second to find it. West Virginia pitcher, notice I'm drawing my R, so I still have not said the name. West Virginia pitcher Chase Meyer. Chase Meyer, of course, who has been with the program for 3 seasons, made some tremendous outings. He was big in the postseason last year for the Mountaineers under head coach Steve Sabins. It came out that, first off, it hit the Twitter rumors. I believe our friend of the program, and Nick Castrilli, I hope I'm saying that right, an Italian who is very close with the West Virginia Mountaineers. He let me know, and then he let Twitter know. No longer on the roster is Chase Meyer, who had been injured for the first 3 weeks of the season, battling something, and he was expected to come back. I think it was maybe within 6 weeks, and the initial reaction was, you know what, this is good for West Virginia's pitching staff. They can get other guys more valuable innings against a not-so-strong schedule. But it's all of a sudden announced after people discover that Chase Meyer's not on the roster online. That has to mean something. Chase Meyer's been let go from the program. There's an official statement from Steve Sabins. This isn't a rumor. This is confirmed by Coach Sabins and the program that Chase Meyer is no longer with the program. Now, there's been rumors floating around and a story, and I don't know how valuable the source is on the matter. It's a West Virginia something. Without crediting them, I don't want to put too much stock into what this might be, because I believe, regardless of who they are, their story is all sourced from the side of Chase Meyer, not so much from West Virginia. So it's all he said, she said at the end of the day. But it sounds like there was a disagreement between Sabins and Meyer. Maybe there was some trouble in the locker room. I don't want to speculate too much farther than that. But I will say that Steve Sabins is the kind of guy who is not going to comment on this matter. You won't hear more from him. He's anxious to coach the team he has now, who has had a tremendous season, again, without Chase Meyer. He's been injured all season. The pitching staff has looked phenomenal. Dawson Montesa is really good. They've got to clean some things up maybe later in the weekend, but this is a program that has every chance to win as many games as they want to. But again, they are doing it against a weak schedule right now. I've been a huge proponent of the West Virginia Mountaineers, and of course, a little part of that was Chase Meyer. However, as I tweeted yesterday, I'm not any lower on West Virginia today than I was 2 days ago or 3 days ago or yesterday. I'm very anxious to see how West Virginia's pitching staff, built on D2 transfers led by Dawson Montesa, and Ian Korn is somewhere in the mix there. I'm not sure what he's been up to this season, but Max Diel has been going on Sundays, and there's some other arm in the mix on the weekends whose name's escaping me. Maybe Gris can chime in with that at his leisure. I doubt he knows it off the top of his head. But the staff has been fine with
I'm not
that.
paying attention to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. The staff has been fine, and I think they'll continue to be fine. And there have even been some whispers today that maybe he'll come back to the program. Maybe it's a situation where there's going to be more conversation, and maybe Chase Meyer is going to be welcome back. That's usually not how these things go. Number one, you don't remove somebody from roster. Number two, you don't allow these rumors to percolate. And then three, you don't make an official statement saying that he's been released from the team. We wish him the best moving forward. You don't do those things if you're going to say, well, maybe he can come back next week. It's not a wishy-washy thing. Steve Sabins does not strike me as the type to go back on an announcement like that. Imagine the locker room. You have a guy who is, whatever the stir is that led to him being removed from the team, whatever the circumstances of that are, if it was bad. Again, I don't want to speculate. Maybe he's dealing with something. Who knows? But if it's a situation where he was causing a problem of any kind, and you say, all right, you're going to be removed from our team, and then you say a few days later, well, we talked about it, you're actually welcome back. That's just not how life works. That's not how culture works. And again, the Mountaineers are playing good baseball without him. They're ranked in the top 25 by nearly every outlet, if not every outlet. I don't pay attention to the rankings and get down in the weeds too much this early in the year and who's ranked where. Call me a head coach. But I just want to make it clear that if you've seen me hype up the West Virginia Mountaineers and you think that this is going to do something about that hype, you are sorely mistaken. But I am curious to see how their pitching staff absorbs this blow, because it is a loss. Chase Meyer's a talented arm. He's been there for 3 years. This is a guy who was there when Sabins took over the reins as head coach. Sabins has been on staff for a long time. It wasn't a, hello, I'm Steve Sabins. It was a, hello, I'm now the head coach. So he's known Sabins his whole playing career. But 2 years of Steve Sabins being the head coach, and it's kind of a controversial move. I'm not looking into that. I'm just going to say that I'm still very high on the Mountaineers. I think the Mountaineers have a great chance to play in Omaha, and this is going to be a footnote on a fantastic season. But there's a lot of baseball between now and June, as it turns out, including this weekend. Not only is there baseball today, maybe tomorrow, but there's baseball this weekend. And that's going to be the case of every weekend until June, which is about the best news that anybody could ever provide. And I'll tell you, normally, if you've watched the last 3 weeks, you see a graphic at the end of the week, at the end of the program, where I say, here are the top 5 series or matchups or tournaments that I'm most excited for. And I've decided that I'm not going to do that this week, because there's only one event that I'm the most excited for. There are some great matchups. I'll give a shout out to Kansas State at SIUE. I always get confused with the letters there. But SIUE, Kansas State hosting SIUE, great series. But I'm not going to talk about them. I'm not even going to bring them up. The event that I am most excited for is the Cambria Classic. I've actually got the Minnesota helmet right here. The Gophers host the tournament. And they used to host this every year. I think this is maybe the fourth or fifth time this tournament has occurred. It's at US Bank Stadium. You've seen the videos, the pictures of Vanderbilt and Ole Miss and Nebraska playing at the home of the Minnesota Vikings. It's a very unique look because not only is it baseball at a however many thousand seat stadium, 60,000, maybe, probably more than that. But it's also baseball on a football field that has been turned into a baseball diamond. The dugouts are shipping containers. It is a truly one-of-a-kind experience. It's becoming more common now because Minnesota, the Gophers, played quite a few games at US Bank Stadium throughout the year. They've played there this season. They played there last weekend against Kansas and took 2 out of 4. The event that the Cambria Classic has been a tremendous opportunity for SEC teams to travel north as far as Minnesota. When do you ever see Vanderbilt and Ole Miss playing as north as Minneapolis? And that's something that I've seen not only in the Cambria Classic, but I've seen it with my own eyeballs as well. And that was really fun 3 years ago. And I'm excited to go back this year. But I'll be honest, the field is not what it once was. The field is not 3 SEC teams and a couple Big Ten teams and maybe a team like Hawaii who was there in 2022. Hawaii, of all teams. I've seen Hawaii play baseball. That's something that I need to add to my scrapbook. I will not be seeing Hawaii or SEC teams this weekend. I'll be seeing Minnesota, Northwestern, South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, Omaha, who is about 20 minutes away from my doorstep, as well as, I shouldn't have said that tangent because now at UNLV, the West Coast representative. UNLV is playing really good baseball right now. Minnesota is playing pretty good baseball right now. The other 4 programs have losing records at the moment. So on paper, I can understand where you're like, this event is not, going to grab headlines. And that's okay because college baseball is great, whether it's played here or in Timbuktu. And I'm excited to go watch it at a football stadium. And these are the kind of weekends that define college baseball to an extent. It's not when you're watching LSU go play Florida. That's so easy. That's easy. And I'm not saying what I'm doing is hard or heroic. You can say those things. But when I go to US Bank Stadium this weekend, I'm really looking forward to watching 6 teams that aren't guaranteed anything. These are teams that are fighting for the way the programs are going right now. Again, UNLV and Minnesota are making a lot of positive momentum towards maybe make the NCAA tournament. But the Gophers struggled mightily last season. Their head coach, Ty McDevitt, in his first year showed signs, but still struggled. And UNLV is a program that hasn't made national noise in a number of years. And then the other 4 programs are not exactly national champion candidates either. But I'm very excited about that prospect. It's six teams that are not at the front of your minds when you think historic or must-see TV. But I'm excited to be there because these events are what make college baseball great. I don't know if there are any events left besides the Cambria Classic. This might be the only one where it's a neutral site event ahead of the NCAA tournament. The next neutral site event is probably conference tournament season after this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to going to US Bank Stadium. I know I just talked down a little bit on the event, but it's kind of a sicko event, and I'm excited for those kind of events. The type of game where you tune in and you don't know what's going to happen at all, that gets me really excited. And I can't wait for it. It's about a 6-hour drive for me. I'm probably going to go Friday and Saturday and head back Sunday morning. Really looking forward to the opportunity. I'm not even going to talk about the other games that are happening this weekend. Frankly, I think it's a little bit of a down slate after last week's awesomeness. But there's still some fun ones out there. You can go to Pair Ratings, look at what he's got. He literally grades the games every day. Good resource there. There's so many scoreboard apps, so you can get access to those. Lucky you. But I'm excited for the Cambria Classic in Minnesota. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you're watching right now, go to our YouTube, comment, like, subscribe. Most of all, if you're on Twitter, shoot me a DM. Let me know that you enjoyed the show. Let me know that you hated the show. Again, I say this every week. Whether you liked it, whether you hated it, I want to hear from you because the reality is that I can talk to my camera by myself without clicking record. I would like to know that you're listening and enjoying as well. There's a number in the corner that tells me how many people tuned in. 219. Not a terrible number tuning in live. I don't know how long you stuck around. I don't know if you're watching the whole time. Seriously, DM me. I will respond. I promise. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week on CBC Radio.